In this video, I will be praying for you and discussing some of the best books written for beginners who want to understand money. One of these books is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I recently started a series where every 2 days I pick a book, review it, and share my insights with you. It's essential to note that this video is not a replacement for reading the book itself. Reading is crucial, and this video is intended to encourage you to pick up the book I review. Watching this video doesn't mean you've absorbed everything the book has to offer. Today, I will review Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a book that has been considered one of the best resources for learning about money for years. If you're someone who has never deeply thought about money, be it at home, in school, or in college, this book is for you. It challenges conventional perspectives on wealth and introduces new ways of thinking about financial independence. I first read Rich Dad, Poor Dad back in 2018 or 2019 when I was a college student. The book, written by Robert Kiyosaki, is partly autobiographical. It contrasts the philosophies of two father figures in his life: his biological father, an educated and hardworking professor who struggled financially, the poor dad, and his friend's father, a wealthy entrepreneur, the rich dad, who taught him valuable lessons about money and investing. Through these two perspectives, Kiyosaki shares 6 life-changing lessons on money, which I will discuss in this video. These insights provide a fresh perspective on financial freedom and the importance of building wealth. If you're someone who prefers listening to books, this book, along with many others, is available in audio format on India's leading audio platform. Use the special code mentioned in this video for a discount on an annual subscription. Remember, reading books or consuming their content in any format is a way to expand your understanding and gain valuable knowledge. Stay tuned as I share 6 priceless lessons from Rich Dad, Poor Dad that can transform the way you think about money.
All right, diving in today, we've got a big one on our plate. Excerpts from Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This book, man, this book really got people talking, didn't it?
It sure did. Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it really sparked a conversation about personal finance and challenged a lot of the traditional thinking around money.
And that's what we're here for, to dig into the financial wisdom that Kiyosaki shares and see what actionable advice we can pull out. For you, for our listeners, for their own personal journeys with money.
Exactly. You know, we're not just going to summarize. You're going to break down the core ideas and see if we can't spark some aha moments along the way.
Let's get to it then. Okay, so Kiyosaki's whole story, it hinges on these 2 father figures in his life. His own father, the poor dad, and his friend's father, the rich dad.
And what I find so interesting is how he uses those 2 different perspectives, right, to challenge those deep-seated beliefs we have about money and success. His own father, he was a teacher, very educated, but always struggling financially. But his friend's dad, he was this self-made entrepreneur, totally different approach to money.
That tension, right, between the 2 dads, it's like the foundation of the whole book.
Yeah.
For example, he remembers his poor dad saying, the love of money is the root of all evil. But his rich dad, he said, no, the lack of money is the root of all evil. Those are pretty powerful opposing viewpoints.
They really are. It's just the beginning, though, really. It forced him to think critically, young Kiyosaki, to choose his own path. And it leads to one of the most, I think, memorable ideas in the book. The rich don't work for money. Sounds kind of crazy, but what do you think he means by that?
Yeah, it's goes against everything we're taught about how to earn a living.
Exactly. Kiyosaki's saying the goal is to have money work for you, not the other way around. He talks about acquiring assets, things that put money in your pocket.
Okay, so we hear this word assets a lot, but what are some examples he actually gives? Like specific things?
Yeah, so rental income from properties, dividends from stocks, royalties from, a book you write or an invention, anything that generates income even when you're not actively working. And he contrasts that with liabilities, which are things that take money out of your pocket.
So like a house. Even though we think of a house as an asset, it could be a liability if it's costing you a ton in mortgage payments and upkeep.
Exactly. An asset puts money, a liability takes money, out. He uses those simple diagrams in the book to show how the cash flows.
And this is where those childhood business ventures come in. You know, like when he and his friends started that comic book library, it wasn't just child's play. It was a lesson in leverage and having money work for you.
Yeah, those early experiences, they really shaped his financial mindset, learning about making money, managing expenses, and the power of putting money to work.
But what about people who go the more traditional route? Get a good education, a secure job. He talks about this idea of the rat race that a lot of professionals get trapped in.
In this part, this is where the book really hits home for a lot of people, because he's saying that even highly educated professionals, they can still struggle financially if they don't have financial education.
So they get stuck in this cycle, work for money, pay bills, accumulate those liabilities we were talking about, mortgages, car loans, and they never really achieve true financial freedom, even with a decent salary.
It's that cautionary tale, you know? He has that example, the young couple, buys a big house, gets into debt, keeping up with the Joneses, ends up working even harder just to stay afloat, prioritizing job security over building those income-generating assets.
Almost like they're on this treadmill, running and running, but never really getting anywhere financially. And then he brings up this other key concept, corporations. He's really big on understanding the power of corporations, particularly when it comes to wealth protection and taxes.
This is something that can seem kind of scary to people, but he breaks it down in a way that's easy to understand. He says that corporations, they're not really physical things, but they're these legal structures that give you separate financial management.
It's like having this separate entity, right, that can earn money, spend money, and be taxed differently from you as an individual.
Precisely. And he even provides some historical context to show how taxes have evolved and how wealthy people and businesses have used corporations to their advantage throughout history. It's all about understanding the rules and using them strategically.
But he doesn't just point out the problem, does he? He offers solutions. He argues that financial intelligence is something that can be developed, not just something you're born with.
Exactly. Really empowering message. He wants people to dive into learning about investing, understanding markets, and getting comfortable with the legal side of finance.
It sounds like a lot to take in, though, especially if you're starting from scratch. Where does he say people should begin?
He's all about taking action, attending seminars, reading, finding mentors, people who have already done what you want to do. And of course, he created the Cash A Flow board game. It's a fun way to practice financial skills in a safe environment.
I've heard about that. What's so special about it?
It's a simulation, you make decisions, buy and sell assets, manage cash flow, and you can learn from mistakes without risking your actual money. Fantastic for building financial literacy and getting comfortable with different investment strategies.
This is like a great way to put those skills into practice and build some confidence.
Yeah, and he emphasizes that taking action is key. Because fear can really hold people back. Fear of losing money, fear of failure, even laziness.
So true. Fear can be paralyzing. What does he say about overcoming it?
He's a big believer in taking calculated risks, learning from your mistakes, and developing financial discipline. He actually shares stories from his own real estate investments, his successes and his failures, to show how he learned and grew through experience.
Oh, like that condo he bought in a down market. That must seem pretty risky at the time.
Perfect example. He saw an opportunity when everyone else was scared, bought the condo for $50,000, even though they were asking for $60,000, because he knew he could make it cash flow positive by renting it out.
So he was thinking long-term, focused on the income, not the short-term ups and downs of the market.
Exactly. And when the market bounced back a year later, he sold it for $95,000. Almost doubled his money. But it didn't stop there. He used something called a 1031 exchange to defer paying taxes on the profit and rolled that money into a 12-unit apartment building, building that asset column even higher.
Hold on. What's a 1031 exchange? I've heard that term, but...
It's this really powerful strategy. Basically, it lets you defer paying taxes on the profit from selling one investment property if you reinvest those profits into a similar property. There are rules and timelines, so you got to work with someone who knows their stuff.
So, not a free pass, but a pretty cool tool for real estate investors.
Yeah, and this example really shows what he means by inventing money. He didn't just buy and sell, he used his knowledge, understood the market, and used this legal strategy to his advantage.
Like he created wealth out of thin air. But it shows you how important financial intelligence is. And he breaks it down into 4 key areas, right? Accounting, investing, understanding markets, and the law. Let's unpack those a bit.
We got it. He says mastering those 4 areas is essential for achieving financial freedom. Let's start with accounting. He calls it the language of business, and for good reason.
Yeah, you got to be able to understand those financial statements, how businesses work. But what about investing? That's such a big word. What does he actually mean by it?
For him, investing is the science of making money work for you, putting your money into things that generate income, whether that's appreciation, dividends, rental income, being proactive, not just letting your money sit there.
Then there's understanding markets. That feels like the most mysterious part of it all. Knowing when to buy, when to sell, how to ride those waves without getting wiped out.
He tries to demystify it a bit. It's about understanding supply and demand, economic cycles, and being able to spot opportunities even when other people are panicking. Like, remember that condo purchase?
Yeah.
He didn't let fear control him. He thought potential and acted on it.
That takes guts. It's about trusting your analysis, sometimes going against the crowd.
Exactly. And lastly, there's the law. A lot of people are kind of scared of this part because it can be complicated and confusing.
It's tempting to just let lawyers and accountants handle everything, but I bet he would say that's not enough.
Right. You got to understand the rules yourself, particularly taxes, so you can make smart decisions and use legal strategies to your benefit. He uses corporations as an example, showing how their structure can be used for asset protection and reducing taxes.
So it's about being an active player in your financial journey, not just sitting on the sidelines.
Absolutely. Financial intelligence, it's a journey. It's a continuous process of learning, adapting, and refining your approach. Start taking steps, even small ones, and build on them over time.
Like learning to ride a bike. You're going to fall a few times, but you got to just get on and start pedaling.
Exactly. You won't become a financial expert overnight, but it takes time, effort, and a willingness to learn from your mistakes.
All right, you've convinced me. Financial intelligence is key. But a lot of people get intimidated by all this stuff. Where's a good place to start?
Kiyosaki really believes in finding mentors, people who've already achieved what you want. Go to seminars, join investment clubs, or reach out to people you know who have some expertise.
Like having a guide, right? Someone to help you navigate the financial landscape. Someone to answer your questions, share their experiences, and give you advice.
Exactly. Surround yourself with people who will support you on your journey. And remember, it's not about becoming a millionaire overnight. It's about making progress, building a solid foundation for your financial future, and developing a rich mindset along the way.
Rich mindset. I love that term. It's about more than just money, isn't it? It's about your attitude, your beliefs, your approach to life.
You got it. It's about believing in abundance, taking calculated risks, and constantly seeking opportunities.
Shifting your perspective from scarcity to abundance. Believing that there's enough for everyone and that you deserve to be financially successful.
He contrasts this with the poor mindset, which is all about fear, negativity, and playing it safe.
And he also talks about those internal obstacles that we all face. Fear, laziness, cynicism, things that can sabotage us, even if we have a great financial plan.
You know, they're like these invisible barriers we put up. Sometimes we don't even realize they're there, holding us back.
How do we break free from those? How do we cultivate a rich mindset and overcome all that fear and doubt?
He offers a bunch of strategies. One of my favorites is the story of Colonel Sanders, the founder of KFC.
Oh, yeah. He didn't achieve massive success until he was pretty old, right?
Exactly. After losing his business, he had to start all over. He traveled all over trying to sell his fried chicken recipe, and it was tough.
Can't even imagine how many times he got turned down.
Over 1,000 times before he finally found someone who believed in his idea.
Talk about persistence. He didn't let age or anything stop him.
That story, it just shows you it's never too late to chase your dreams. Setbacks and failures, they're just part of the process. It's about believing in yourself and your vision no matter what.
Like he was inventing money just by refusing to give up. Amazing.
And that brings us to another thing he talks about, cynicism. He calls it a form of laziness, a way of shutting down opportunities without even looking at them.
Yeah, it's like that little voice in your head that says, nope, not going to work, or too good to be true. So discouraging.
Kiyosaki wants us to be open to new ideas, to really analyze things. Don't just dismiss something because it seems weird or difficult.
Be smart, sure, but don't be closed-minded. Find that balance.
Right. And then there's laziness. He thinks we can beat that by building good financial habits, taking action consistently, even when we don't feel like it.
Like building financial fitness.
Yeah.
The more we do it, the easier it gets. Budgeting, saving, investing, it all becomes part of who we are.
Exactly. Create positive momentum and it'll take you towards your goals. Even small, consistent actions over time can lead to huge results. So, lots to think about here. What are some of your key takeaways so far?
I think what stands out to me is that financial freedom is possible, but it takes work. Education, changing your mindset, and taking action consistently.
Absolutely. It's not about getting rich quick, but building a solid foundation for the long haul.
And it's about finding your own path. What works for one person might not work for another. The key is to keep learning, keep growing, and keep going.
This book, it's a great place to start, but it's just the beginning. There's a whole world of financial knowledge out there just waiting to be explored.
Keep reading, keep learning, and most importantly, keep taking action.
You've got this. Your financial future is in your hands.
Absolutely. And that's a wrap for part 1 of our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've just scratched the surface of the wisdom packed into this book. Stick with us. We'll be right back with more insights and actionable advice in part 2.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that inventing money thing because Kiyosaki actually gives a really cool example of how he did exactly that in the real estate market.
Oh, tell me more.
Okay, so he talks about this time when the Oregon real estate market was down and he found this little condo in foreclosure. Everyone else saw it as risky, but Kiyosaki, he saw opportunity.
What did he see that everyone else missed?
He saw positive cash flow. He bought the condo for $50,000, even though the bank wanted $60,000 because he came in with a cashier's check for the full amount, showed he was serious, and they took the lower offer.
So prepared to act decisively when he saw a good deal. That's a good lesson right there.
Yeah.
But what did he do with the condo?
He rented it out, generated positive cash flow, not a huge amount, but enough to cover the expenses and put a little extra in his pocket each month. Money working for him.
Okay, bought low, rented it out. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But how is that inventing money?
Here's the really interesting part. A year later, the Oregon market started to pick up. He sold the condo for $95,000 to a couple from California. Almost doubled his money in a year. But then, to avoid paying a huge tax bill, he used that strategy we talked about, the 1031 exchange.
Right, the 1031 exchange lets you defer the capital gains tax when you sell one investment property and buy a similar one. To be honest with you, I'm still a little fuzzy on how it all works. Can you break it down for me and for our listeners who might be wondering too?
Sure. Basically, with a 1031 exchange, you can roll the profits from selling one investment property into buying another one without having to pay taxes on those gains right away. There are some specific rules and timelines you got to follow, so working with a professional is key.
So not a total freebie, but a really powerful tool for real estate investors who want to keep that money working and delay those taxes.
Exactly. And this example, it's a perfect illustration of inventing money. He didn't just buy and sell, he used his knowledge, understood the market, and utilized that legal strategy to his advantage.
Wow. Like he created wealth out of thin air. It's inspiring, but it also makes you realize how important financial intelligence really is. He talks about those 4 key areas, right? Accounting, investing, understanding markets, and the law. Let's dig into those a little deeper.
Absolutely. Mastering those 4 areas is like his recipe for financial freedom. Let's start with accounting. He calls it the language of business. And it makes sense, right?
Yeah, you got to be able to read those financial statements, understand how businesses work. But what about investing? It seems like such a broad term. What does he actually mean by that?
He defines it as the science of making money work for you. It's about putting your money into assets that generate income, whether it's appreciation, dividends, rental income. It's being proactive, not just letting your money sit in a savings account.
And then there's understanding markets. That feels like the biggest mystery to me. Sometimes it feels like a magic trick, knowing when to buy, when to sell, how to ride those waves without getting crushed.
He tries to take some of the mystery out of it. It's about understanding supply and demand, economic cycles, being able to see opportunities even when everyone else is freaking out. Remember that condo he bought in a down market? He didn't let fear stop him. He saw the potential and went for it.
That takes some serious courage and conviction. It's about trusting your analysis and sometimes going against the crowd.
Exactly. And finally, there's the law. This is the area I think a lot of people just avoid because it can be so complicated and intimidating.
Yeah, it's tempting to just hand it all over to the lawyers and accountants and hope for the best. But I bet he would say that's not enough.
You're right. He stresses how important it is to understand the rules yourself, especially the tax code, so you can make informed decisions and actually use those legal strategies to your advantage. Like he talked about with corporations, how their structure can be used for asset protection and reducing your taxes.
So it's about being an active participant in your financial journey, not just a passive observer.
Absolutely. Financial intelligence, it's a journey, a continuous process of learning and adapting and getting better all the time. Take those first steps, even if they're small, and just keep building from there.
It's like learning to ride a bike, right? You'll
Yeah.
fall a few times, but you got to just get on and start pedaling.
Exactly. You're not going to become a financial expert overnight. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes being willing to learn from those mistakes.
Okay, you've convinced me financial intelligence is key. But I know a lot of people feel intimidated by learning all this stuff. Where's a good place to start?
Kiyosaki is a big believer in finding mentors, people who've already accomplished what you want to accomplish. He suggests going to seminars, joining investment clubs, or just reaching out to people you know who have some financial expertise.
It's like having a guide, right?
Mm.
To help you navigate that whole world of finance. Someone to answer your questions and share their experiences and give you some advice.
Exactly. Surround yourself with people who can support you on your journey. And remember, it's not about becoming a millionaire overnight. It's about making progress, building a solid foundation for your financial future, and developing that rich mindset along the way.
Rich mindset. I love that term. It's about more than just money, isn't it? It's about your attitude, your beliefs, your whole approach to life.
You got it. It's about believing in abundance, taking calculated risks, and always looking for those opportunities.
Shifting your perspective from scarcity to abundance, believing there's enough for everyone and you deserve to be financially successful.
And he contrasts this with the poor mindset, which is all about fear, negativity, and playing it safe.
He also talks about those internal obstacles we all face: fear, laziness, cynicism, things that can really sabotage our efforts, even when we have the knowledge and the plan.
It's like there are these invisible barriers, right, that we put up ourselves, sometimes without even realizing it.
So how do we break free from those? How do we cultivate that rich mindset and get past all the fear and doubt?
Well, he has a whole bunch of strategies. One of my favorites is the story of Colonel Sanders, the founder of KFC.
Oh, yeah. Didn't he face a lot of rejection before finding success?
He did. Colonel Sanders, he didn't hit it big until he was in his 60s. After losing his business, he had to start over from scratch. He traveled all over trying to sell his fried chicken recipe.
That must have been so discouraging.
It was. He got rejected over 1,000 times before someone finally decided to take a chance on his idea.
Wow. Talk about persistence. He didn't let age or anything stop him.
Such an inspiring story because it shows you it's never too late to go after your dreams. Setbacks and failures, they're just part of the process. It's about believing in yourself and your vision no matter what.
It's like he invented money just by refusing to give up.
And that brings us to another obstacle he talks about: cynicism. He describes it as like a form of laziness, a way of shutting down opportunities without even really looking at them.
Yeah, that little voice that says it'll never work or it's too good to be true. So frustrating.
Right. Kiyosaki wants us to be open to new ideas, to really analyze things. Don't just dismiss something because it seems strange or challenging.
Be smart about it, sure, but don't close yourself off to possibilities.
And then there's laziness, which he thinks we can overcome by building good financial habits, taking action consistently, even when it's hard.
Like, it's financial fitness.
Mhm.
The more we do it, the easier it gets. Budgeting, saving, investing, it all becomes part of who we are.
Exactly. Create that positive momentum, and it'll carry you towards your goals. Even small, consistent actions, over time, they can have huge results. So, we've covered a lot here. What are some of your big takeaways? What do you hope people will walk away with?
I think the biggest message is this: financial freedom. It's possible for anyone who's willing to put in the work, educate yourself, change your mindset, and take action consistently.
It's not about getting rich quick, but about building a solid foundation for the long term.
And finding your own path. What works for one person might not work for another. The key is to never stop learning, never stop growing, and keep striving towards those goals. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a great starting point, but it's just the beginning. There's so much more out there to learn about the world of finance.
So keep reading, keep learning, and most importantly, keep taking action.
Your financial future is yours to create.
Exactly. And that's a wrap for part 2 of our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But stick around because there's still so much more to unpack, and we'll be right back with part 3.
It's so great to hear someone talk openly about failure, Reminds us that even the most successful people, they've had their share of setbacks along the way.
Absolutely. And it really ties into another obstacle Kiyosaki talks about: procrastination. We've all done it, right? Put things off, tell ourselves, I'll get to it later.
Procrastination, it can be a real killer of dreams, especially financial ones. What does Kiyosaki say about overcoming that? Any tips?
He thinks procrastination usually comes down to fear. Like, we put off investing because we're scared of losing money, or we don't start that business because we're afraid of failing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So Got to face those fears head on. Easier said than done, though, right?
It's definitely not always easy, but he does have some practical suggestions. One thing he says is break those big, scary goals down into smaller, bite-sized pieces.
Love that. Sometimes a goal feels so huge you don't even know where to start. Breaking it down makes it much less overwhelming.
Right. He also suggests setting deadlines and holding yourself accountable. Gives you a sense of urgency, keeps you on track.
That's where having a mentor or an accountability partner can be so helpful. Someone to check in with, share your progress, make sure you're actually doing the work.
Exactly. And then he talks about finding your motivation, that inner drive that keeps you going even when you want to quit.
Motivation can be so tricky. It comes and goes.
Yeah.
How do you tap into that, especially when things get tough?
He says it usually comes down to having a strong why, like a really compelling reason for wanting to achieve those financial goals. What are your values, your dreams? What do you really want out of life?
It's like asking yourself, why am I doing this? What will achieving this goal actually do for me? How will it change my life, the lives of people I care about?
Exactly. And he says to try visualizing those outcomes, imagine yourself living that dream life. Really picture it.
Yeah, creating that clear mental picture of what you want, it can be so motivating, makes the whole journey more exciting too.
He also suggests finding inspiration from other people. Read success stories, go to seminars, connect with people who inspire you. It can really re-energize you.
Love that. Surround yourself with positive energy. Learn from people who've been there. Their wins can inspire you, and their struggles can teach you valuable lessons too.
Exactly. And it's important to remember Kiyosaki doesn't pretend to have all the answers. He wants people to find their own path, to try things out, figure out what works for them.
No one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
It's about taking ownership of your financial journey, seeking out knowledge, and making decisions that feel right for you.
Right. And he's big on continuous learning. Stay curious. Always be looking for ways to improve your financial literacy. The world of money is constantly changing, so you got to stay informed and be willing to adapt.
So true. Financial education, it's not like you reach the finish line and you're done. It's a lifelong process. Staying engaged, asking questions, and constantly learning new things.
Exactly. And one of his biggest points is this. Understand the different types of income. He breaks it down into 4 categories: earned income, portfolio income, passive income, and business income.
This is so important, and I think a lot of people don't really get the difference between these types and how they can affect your whole financial picture. Can you break them down for us?
Sure thing. So earned income, that's the most common one. It's what you make from your job, your salary, your wages, trading your time for money.
The classic 9-to-5 grind, work, get paid. But I think Kiyosaki points out that earned income, it has some downsides too.
Yeah, it's usually the most heavily taxed income.
Yeah.
And it's often the least secure. You're relying on your employer, so if you lose your job, you lose your income stream.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what about portfolio income? What's that all about?
Portfolio income is money you make from investments. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate. You're putting your money to work, earning dividends, interest, and capital gains.
Instead of trading your time for money, you're letting your money make money for you.
Exactly. Kiyosaki thinks portfolio income is crucial for building wealth. It's all about diversifying your investments, managing risk, and letting your money grow over time.
Sounds like a great way to build long-term wealth and create a more secure future. But what about passive income? I hear that term all the time, but I'm not always sure what it actually means.
Passive income is money you make from assets that don't require much work to maintain. Think rental properties, royalties from books or patents, or businesses you own but don't actively run.
So you're creating income streams that keep flowing, even when you're not working, without constantly trading your time for money.
Exactly. This is what Kiyosaki sees as the key to financial freedom. Building assets that work for you, generating income without constant effort.
It's like the dream, right? Earning money while you sleep. What about business income, though? How is that different from passive income?
Business income is the money you make from owning and running your own business, being your own boss, creating products or services, building a company that reflects your values.
Having more control over your income, your time, your future, that's powerful.
Right. And Kiyosaki thinks business income has the biggest potential for building serious wealth. It's about using your skills, knowledge, and creativity to build a successful venture.
So we've got these 4 different types of income, each with its own pros and cons. Does he recommend focusing on just one? Or?
Not really. He thinks it's about finding the right mix for you. your goals, your situation. Diversify your income streams. Find that balance between security and growth. Build a financial foundation that supports the life you want to live.
Finding that sweet spot makes sense.
He's also big on understanding taxes. Work with qualified people to legally minimize what you owe and maximize what you actually get to keep.
It's not just about how much you make, it's about what you keep after the government takes its cut. Important point.
One thing that really stuck with me from Rich Dad, Poor Dad was his focus on those internal obstacles, the things that hold us back from financial success.
Oh yeah, he talks about fear, laziness, cynicism, all that stuff that can trip us up, even when we have the knowledge and the tools.
Like they're invisible walls, right, that we build ourselves. Sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it.
So how do we break down those walls? How do we get past the fear, the doubts, develop that rich mindset?
Well, one of my favorite stories is when he talks about Colonel Sanders, the KFC guy.
Oh yeah. He faced tons of rejection before he made it big, right?
He did. He didn't hit it big until he was in his 60s. After losing his business, he had to start all over. Imagine that, going around trying to sell his fried chicken recipe.
Wow, had to be tough. How many people turned him down?
Over 1,000, before someone finally said yes.
Man, talk about not giving up. Persistence. He didn't let anything stop him.
It's such a powerful story. Shows you that it's never too late. And those setbacks, those failures, they're all part of the journey. It's about believing in yourself and never giving up on your vision.
He invented money just by refusing to quit. Love it.
Right. And then there's cynicism. Kiyosaki thinks it's a form of laziness. It's like shutting down opportunities before you even really look at them.
That voice that says, nah, that won't work, or too good to be true, so limiting.
Kiyosaki wants us to be open, analyze those opportunities. Don't just write them off because they seem different or difficult.
Be smart about it, yeah, but also be open to new possibilities.
And laziness. Well, he says that one can be overcome by building good habits. Financial habits, taking action consistently even when it's not fun.
Like building financial muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets. Budgeting, saving, investing. It all becomes second nature.
Exactly. Build that momentum and it'll carry you toward your goals. Even small, consistent actions over time can lead to amazing results. So we've covered a lot of ground here. What are your biggest takeaways for our listeners? What do you hope they'll remember?
I think what stands out to me is this. Financial freedom. It's not some magical thing reserved for a select few. It's possible for anyone willing to put in the effort. Educate yourself, change your mindset, and take action consistently. It all starts there.
Absolutely. It's not about getting rich quick. It's about building a solid foundation for long-term wealth and security. It's about the long game.
And it's about finding what works for you. Your path might not look like anyone else's. That's totally fine. The key is to keep learning, keep growing, keep striving toward those goals. Never stop.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a great place to start, but it's just the beginning. There's a whole world of financial knowledge out there waiting to be explored.
So keep reading, keep learning, and most importantly, keep taking action. Don't wait for permission, just start.
You got this. Your financial future is in your hands. Create the life you want.
That's right. It's all about empowerment. And that's a wrap for our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and are feeling inspired to take control of your financial future. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.